Hello there to all my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villainy aficionados. Welcome, bienvenue. Here I am, a good old Lord of Shadows, and this, my friends, is none other than another Shadow Talk. Well, basically, this time it's going to be a topic that I wanted to discuss ever since it was first officially announced since August 2024, at the time of the D23 Expo, and just from the title, you guys already know what the topic is going to be. Now, let's rewind time a little bit, okay? So, all the way back in 2018 when the sequel came out, we had speculations, we had theories, and there were some rumors circling around, especially like some rumors regarding what Brad Bird said and everything, you know. But on August 2024, D23 Expo, it was officially revealed Incredibles 3 is coming. It is officially happening. And I'm telling you guys, I was so excited when I heard this news because it literally came out of nowhere. I said before, we had theories, we had speculations, we heard some rumors, but this time it is fucking official. And when I heard the news, I was jumping up and down when it comes to like I was so fucking happy. I mean, I cannot even describe enough, when it comes to like my overall excitement for this announcement. I mean, the Incredibles franchise was always one of my favorite franchises that came out of Pixar, like period. One of the greatest things that was ever created. And all goes to thanks to Brad Bird. Oh man, like the guy is a fucking genius. So hearing we're finally gonna get the final chapter of the Incredibles trilogy. I mean, it's just simply pure gold for me. Pure gold. Now, ever since it was announced, there were only like bits and pieces when it comes to like informations like what we gathered all the way from the announcement. So basically, is as I like to call it, what we know already. Number one, like I said, the announcement. Number two, Brad Bird is returning, but this time he's only returning as the writer for Incredibles 3. Unfortunately, he's not going to take the helm as a director, which brings me to number three, which is also kind of connected to number two. Incredibles 3, we're going to have another director taking the helm of this project, and this is going to be none other than Peter Sohn. Now, if you don't know who he is, he played a mugger in Incredibles, but he also directed The Good Dinosaur, very underrated Pixar movie in my book, and also he directed Elemental. And also, if I read somewhere, now I don't know if this is actually official, but I read somewhere that Brad Bird and Pete Docter actually, like personally, chosen Peter Sohn as the director who will take the helm of the Incredibles 3. So that for me, if it's true, that for me it's a fucking bonus. I mean, just from the projects that he did before, it already gave me an idea. Like, okay, they have a great director taking the helm of Incredibles 3. With Brad Bird, of course, being, I think he's going to be like the executive producer and writer of the project as well. So for me, so at first, before hearing about this, for me, it was like a win-win situation. But I still think Brad Bird will have some sort of control over the project. When it comes to trying to guide Peter Sohn, what he can do, what he can and cannot do when it comes to how to handle the Incredibles characters, Frozen, the new characters, like the villains, the story wise and everything. I think like Brad Bird will still be in some capacity in creative control. At least that's the way how I see it. And now number four, which was recently revealed, like 1 or 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday, not sure. But basically, Pete Docter revealed on the new D23 convention that Incredibles 3 is going to come out in 2028. Now, again, for me and for everyone else, it's going to be a long wait, but we'll get to there. We will get to 2028 to the release date of Incredibles 3, 100%. Because right now we think it's going to be a long time, but trust me, the time will pass just like this. But either way, when it comes to the release date, I kind of expected that it's going to be either 2027 or 2028. Because the last thing I heard is Brad Bird was currently writing the script, so we don't know yet if he actually finished it or he's still writing it. We don't know, but that means definitely that they're going to start production somewhere around 2027 for sure. Now the release date of Incredibles 3 in 2028 wasn't revealed officially, but my expectations but when it comes to my theory of when release date wise, I think it's going to be around either April, May, or the midsummer of 2028. I think like that would be like the kind of like the time when Incredibles 3 will be released. At least that's the way how I think it will be. I mean, they could easily release it in the fall, but I think like that would be too much, But again, that's that's just my guess when it comes to the overall release date. But at least we have a confirmation it's going to be 2028. Now, with that being said, the question that we have also is, what can we expect from Incredibles 3? Well, one thing for certain, the original cast. They're definitely going to return, voicing Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, Samuel L. Jackson, the man voicing Frozone, the actress for Violet, and everything. Now the only question I have, and that kind of connects with my theory that I'm gonna discuss like a little bit later on, if they're gonna have the same actor for Dash. Now, I'll go into details a little bit later, but if they keep the same Dash, like the same actor from the like the second movie, then maybe they're gonna go in the direction I'm thinking that they can go. But if they keep him as a kid, then basically, yeah, they're definitely gonna recast him for sure. And the same question goes for Jack Jack. They're gonna either gonna keep him as a baby or they're gonna make him a little bit older as well. Because again, everything is connected to my theory when it comes to like the overall plot. But I'm gonna get to that a little bit later. But besides that, also like I said, besides the Incredibles and Frozen, we're definitely gonna see Edna Mode back, 100%. I mean, and we also gonna definitely hear Brad Bird voicing this character again. Now, when it comes to other characters, besides the main ones, including also Edna Mode, I think when it comes to like Winston Dever and Evelyn Dever in this case, I think like Winston Dever for now from like the second movie, because I think that we're definitely gonna see some old characters returning, maybe. But when it comes to like the ones who could return, I'm thinking like Winston Dever or Evelyn Dever. Now, if Evelyn Dever returns, then I think it's definitely going to be like a prison scene where basically Elastigirl is going to talk to her or something, which is going to be, like I said, very, very like almost like a cameo appearance. Winston Dever, he might have like a supporting role if we see him again and everything. But again, for him, it's like a 50-50 chance. And for Evelyn, a little bit lower than that. But one thing I'm hoping for, it's not going to see Evelyn Dever, she's being released from prison because of lack of evidence, or because under the circumstances and so on and so forth. I really hope she stays in prison, And I think, and again, having a scene between Elastigirl and her, in prison, like talking and everything, I think would be a cool addition. But again, for those two appearing, it's a very, very, very small chance. But the one thing I do hope one of the characters to actually make a full appearance this time is Frozen's wife. Now, we heard her voice in the first movie, the second movie, but this time being at least what I'm hoping, the final chapter of the Incredibles trilogy. Please make her make an official appearance, his wife. Because for a third movie, and I expect I kind of expect it to be the final one. Make her fully appear. Because I think it's well deserved now, at least the way how I see it. And also when it comes to the casting, I just want to say it's about damn time that they actually did Incredibles 3, because Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl, including even Frozen, their voice actors, they're getting older and older. So yeah, I think I think that's why we call it the perfect time to make an Incredibles 3. But again, that's basically what can we expect from the casting, some of the characters returning, voices and everything, when it comes to Incredibles 3. Some of them are like a very obvious, expectations, because and all, but I just wanted to mention that. And now we go to the theory part, my favorite part of the Shadow Talk. The plot. What the plot is going to be about Incredibles 3. Now, let's go back in time, okay? All the way to 2004, the first movie. So the first movie, the first part of the plot was you have the superhero days of Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible and Frozen. But then the second part, the majority of the part of the first Incredible was basically superheroes becoming illegal, going underground, and basically live a normal life as all the rest of us, all like civilians all over the world. So that's basically kind of the overall plot of the first movie. Now, one of the plot elements you also have in the first one is, of course, Mr. Incredible struggling between, like, his civilian lifestyle, alongside with his superhero glory days, trying to battle, like, basically a battle between his past, his past, and reality, like, what he wishes to be, and what he actually is, like, and also throughout the supervillain plot and everything, you can also see Mr. Incredible's kind of like, going for like, basically relieve those superhero glory days and everything. So, but the main plot of the first movie was always superheroes becoming illegal, going underground, living in the rest of the days as civilians alongside the rest of us. So that was like for the first movie. The second movie, the entire plot was basically trying to make superheroes legal again. And the way how the movie ended, superheroes finally became legal. Now finally, they can basically get out of the underground and try to do, basically, and all those superheroes, they can now finally try to do what they were always best for it. So that's basically kind of like the plot of Incredibles 2. But now for Incredibles 3, well, I mean, think about it. First movie, superheroes became illegal. Second movie, tried to become legal again. So the third movie, like, basically, so the third movie obviously needs to be, about superheroes finally becoming legal and doing what they're known, best: fighting crime, fighting supervillains, protecting civilians, protecting cities, fighting in the name of justice, all over the world. And I think like that should be like one of the one of the main parts of the plot. Basically, seeing superheroes return again, and basically saving the day all over the world, not just simply, with the Incredibles, but like all of them as well. Now, which is also kind of one of the things I also kind of forgot to mentioning, what the other characters could return in Incredibles 3. Is one of the supers that we saw in Incredibles 2. Now, the brick lady, the guy who vomits lava, the owl guy, the Crusher, the Electro, character, them, they have a very small chance to appear. Maybe like a few seconds cameo. The only character out of all of them I could see a return is the Void. Like she's like the only character I think that could return, and again, it's gonna be a very small role. But anyway, going back to the plot, like I said, it should be about superheroes fighting crime, like, everywhere, and basically basically sharing this like global news that superheroes are back in action again and everything. But this time we should have a time jump. And I'm not saying 10 or 20 years later. No, I'm saying not even like a few months. I'm saying like 2 to 3 years max. We should have a time jump because, because like I don't think it would be smart to start the movie the almost exact same way as the Incredibles 2 did. Where basically the first movie ended, fighting the Underminer and everything. So I think at this time we should have a time jump, and I think a time jump this time is well deserved. Which in which way you can make all the characters older, especially the kids, because that's one of the things also I want to discuss about the overall plot. Now, again, for the third time, the main plot of the movie should be like, superheroes back in action again. But now going back to the plot elements, you can go in two directions. One, it's going to be about the entire family. Or two, it's going to be about the kids. Think about it. The first movie was about Mr. Incredible. The second movie was about Elastigirl. So logically speaking, now the plot should be about the kids. And basically their own, not just even private lives, but their lives as superheroes. And basically Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl taking more like a supporting role. And they are the ones being, the main characters this time. Like, again, either that or the entire family. Basically, doing superhero stuff. Now, if you concentrate on the kids, how can you concentrate on them? Well, I was kind of thought like, for example, for I think that you can have two separate like plot elements when it comes to like, or should I say three separate elements when it comes to like the kids. Like for example, if you're gonna make them older, that means like you can make Violet as like let's just say she finished high school and now like she's trying to go to college, and basically like she with her superhero life and everything, she's struggling between her private life and a superhero life. When it comes to like fighting crime, she doesn't have time, when it comes to like having a life with her date, hanging out with her friends, also at the same time like try to pick in like in which college she can go and everything, because like for example, let me try to give you a scenery. For example, why like why I think like in this why I think like she will struggle between like those two moments, because again, it goes exactly like with the type of character she is. For example, like you have a scene where basically she's on a date with that kid that she met in that she was in that she was fencing like in the first movie. Then she was trying to reconnect, in the second one before she he had his entire memory wiped out and everything. They're on a date and everything, and then like all of a sudden you see like a bank robbery or like police trying to catch the bad guys and everything, and you see Violet like she was the closest to the situation. She's like, oh god, like not again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was it like? Tony, I think it was his name. I'm like, I'm sorry, Tony. Like, I have to go. I have to go. I'm sorry. And since like Tony knows that she's a superhero, he's like, don't worry, I know. So it kind of so again, like I think that would be kind of like a perfect choice for Violet. Like try to basically struggle, but and then towards the end she tries to kind of like embrace who she is, who she's meant to be and everything, and try to find a balance between her normal life and superhero life, because like you can even have during the story a time where like basically Violet is like, that's it, I'm done with superheroes. This is like this was never a gift for me or a super fun time. This is a curse. Like I'm done with with superheroes. Curse them, and curse me for being part of this family. Sometimes I wish to be part of a normal family. And so on and so forth. So that's kind of like the Violet part. Now with Dash, you have the opposite. He loves being a superhero. He treats being a superhero more like being a celebrity. In which you can see like his overinflated ego, being cocky, arrogant. He treats everyone he saves like as some almost like he's adoring fans and everything. And basically he kind of lost himself. Basically from being a superhero, he sees himself more as a superstar. Basically, and throughout the entire journey, throughout the movie, you can make him like somehow realize what it means to be a hero, not simply saving the day, but at the same time being good to being good to other people, and also at the same time being good to yourself, like seeing basically trying to find a new way of thinking, so to speak. So you can have that part with Dash. Now with Jack, if they're gonna make him older, let's say he's like 3 or 4 years old, for him, now this is for me the most challenging part when it comes to Jack. Like, how can you use Jack in this one? Well, in my personal opinion, when it comes to like this struggling thing, I felt like maybe he's trying to make friends. He's trying to make friends, to have fun with other children, but it's almost like a very difficult crusade for him because like everyone basically considers him as a freak. Because every time when he tries to be friendly with them, he has these like superpowers popping out and everything, and he causes like damage or chaos or destruction, and basically you have other parents complain to Elastigirl, like that her child is a menace, that he's too dangerous, he's just simply causing destruction, like other children cannot play with him and everything. Like you can have, so basically you can have like a plot point in which like you basically Jack just trying to find his place as well, like in which like at first he basically sees himself as a loner, like he has no other like children who are basically like him, so to speak. So so that's basically kind of like the kids. So basically kind of like that's the kid, the children kind of like plot point when it comes to Incredibles 3. That's the way, at least that's the way how I think you could go. Now when it comes to Elastigirl, Mr. Incredible, and Frozone, for them I think like the way how I can see it, I think like in the movie, I think they should have like a one last superhero mission, and then basically after that, they're going to retire. I mean that's at least that's the way how I see it. Like basically seeing their life as a superhero coming to an end. Basically, like out with the old, in with the new. Like now it's up to the new generation to continue their legacy as superheroes. Basically, so for them that's kind of like what I'm seeing when it comes to them, like in their overall role in this movie. Basically, I'm like overthinking of like retirement and everything, but also in the same time, like I said, I see Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl kind of like more like in a supporting role in which like I can see Mr. Incredible like being the one who's trying to keep them as superheroes, like because it's a very awesome and also at the same time fulfilling their his legacy. But Elastigirl, she's more like look, it's your life, your decision. You are the wielders of your own fate. If you don't like being a superheroes, if you don't like being a superhero, then just be whatever you want. I think like and in the same time I can also imagine like Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl kind of like struggling like like because of their way of thinking and everything. Like Elastigirl is trying to be reasonable, but Mr. Incredible, he's like looking at it like in from a superhero perspective, and also kind of concentrating on his ego, and reputation as well. So that's the kind of like when it comes to the overall plot, that's kind of like what I'm expecting when it comes to like their roles in Incredibles 3. Now, when it comes to Edna Mode, because like there's no fucking way you can have Incredibles 3 without Edna Mode. There's no fucking way. But this time, with superheroes being legal again and everything, I really want to see her creating superhero suits. Like for real this time. I mean, of course, we had some like brief um scenes in which like in which you can see her lab, you can see the collection of superheroes, superhero suits and everything, also her lab, how she creates them and everything, and also like her creativity, like how suits should look like and everything. No capes, that kind of thing. But this time I really wish to see her like full on create super suits again, like I'm not saying in detail, but like more of it. That's at least the one thing I'm kind of expecting it to be. So that's kind of like the overall plot. At least that's the way how I see it. Now we go to this. The villain. This time, I really want Brad Bird to create like an actual supervillain. A villain that has no connection to the kids, a villain that has no connection to Elastigirl or Mr. Incredible whatsoever, or even Frozen. Like, I want to see an actual supervillain that has no relation to the Incredibles family, and also at the same time, someone who should represent like a real challenge, not just simply to the Incredibles, but mostly towards the kids. Like basically, in which like the stakes this time are higher. In which like basically from like Violet's perspective, like like why this villain needs to be a challenge for her, because like in that way she will realize like what she needs to do, why being a superhero is part of her life and everything. But also for Dash at the same time, to realize that being a superhero is not simply being a superstar, but also it's a quest. It's a goal. It's a need. Like it's a basically it's a mission. To simply not just simply save other people, but also the ones you love. And try to make them a better person at the same time. And also for for Jack trying to find his place into all this mess and everything. But when it comes to the villain, I can even see Jack being a MacGuffin. Because like I said, I don't want to like this time I want to see an actual supervillain. I don't want to see a villain that are like at first like good guy, good guy, good guy, good guy, then like bomb, 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 I'm a villain, surprise, surprise, just like they did with Evelyn Dever, aka the original Screenslaver and everything. This time I want to see an actual supervillain from beginning to the very end. And the reason why I say I can see Jack being a MacGuffin, because I can see the like, for example, the reason why I'm saying is because like this supervillain, like I don't want to see like I don't want to see him being like an old timer or anything, but like I want to see him as a supervillain. Like for example, okay, superheroes are back, then why not supervillains? If the superheroes can return, so can supervillains. you know. And like basically, after superheroes retire and everything, like supervillains basically went underground as well. Like some of them either retired or they went underground, or they simply disappeared. So you can put like this supervillain's goal this time is to try to bring supervillainy back. And what better way to do it than use Jack and his powers to try to create multiple other supervillains, kind of like him being kind of like the main broker, the main salesman, the main dealer of like these superpowers. So you can add. So basically, one of his goals is not just simply to create havoc, but also at the same time to bring back supervillains into their former glory. You know, like because just like I said, if superheroes can return, so can supervillains. Like so yeah, I could definitely see him use Jack as a MacGuffin. But also at the same time you can have that storyline, just like they tried to do with Syndrome, where basically this villain could basically manipulate Jack, in which like he comes to the side of evil, in which like that way he can find where he belongs, in a group or a society in which like they welcome his kind of powers and everything, so you could train him as his psychic. But again, that's just like there's basically a front. That's basically what other people on the outside see. But from the inside, he's trying to use him for his powers. Again, try to not simply maybe even make himself powerful. So that no one can stop him. Also, at the same time, try to use it to create other supervillains as well. So I mean, again, it's just a thought. But one thing I'm really hoping, or should I say, two things I'm really hoping that this time that we're not going to have supervillains that are connected to the Incredibles family, and also personally to the kids or Elastigirl or Mr. Incredible, or not even Frozen. Like I want to see an actual supervillain this time. 100%. And now at the end, how will it all end? How will it end? When it comes to not simply Incredibles 3, but I'm talking like, the Incredibles franchise, or as a trilogy, but mostly, let's just say, how will Incredibles 3 end? One thing for certain, I don't think any one of them will die. No, I don't think any of the characters will die. But the way how I see it, I think like, they're going to defeat the supervillain, Mr. Elastigirl, Mr. Elastigirl, Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozen. They're gonna have their one last superhero fight, but at the same time, it will make the characters of the kids complete. So at the end, I can even at the end, I talk about time jump at the beginning, but I can see even a time jump at the end of the movie, just like they did with How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, in which like you can see Violet, Dash, and Jack way more older, and basically, like not simply seeing them in their private lives, but at the same time, in their superhero life, as well. And this time, I could even see them having different costumes. They're not the Incredibles anymore. Like each and every one of them have their own costumes and everything, And I could even see Frozen and Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, basically, from their house, hanging out and everything, enjoying their retirement. Also, at the same time, being proud, especially Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible, being proud parents, seeing their children, basically, succeed in everything they ever wanted, So I think like that's the kind of end I can assume for like, what could happen when it comes to Incredibles 3. Again, I don't see any of the death at all, even though Brad Bird, knowing him, he can do that. But when it comes to Incredibles, I don't think any of them will die. But it's more like basically, I think it's going to be overall like, what's the word I'm looking for? I think it's going to be more about like, taking the mantle and basically giving it to the next successors. I think it's going to be that kind of like ending. But definitely, I could definitely see a time jump. At least the way how I described it. And the very last thing I could see that I want to talk about is basically the future of the franchise. Now, knowing Brad Bird, I don't think it's going to happen. But what can you do after the Incredibles 3 is done? Well, there are only a few things you can do. Well, I should say one thing you can do: spin-offs. For example, I would love personally to see a Frozen movie. I would love to see that. with Samuel L. Jackson kicking ass and everything. I would love to see that. Also, the other possible solution is, you can continue basically, but this time the kids are the main characters. Or you can have spin-offs movies in which, like, to each their own. Like one movie about Dash, one movie about Violet, maybe one about Jack, or even like a limited series about his adventures and everything. Again, it's a very, very, again, the possibility of for the franchise to continue after Incredibles 3, it's very, very small, but it still has a possibility. But we shall see. So far, personally, I think Incredibles 3 will end. I think the Incredibles will end with Incredibles 3. At least that's the way how I see it. But the Frozen spin-off, I wouldn't say no to that. Just saying. And basically, with that being said, this is basically it, guys. My overall Incredibles 3 theory, thoughts, discussion, that I had in mind. And with that, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. You guys know the drill. Rate the video, comment, like, subscribe, give me personal overall thoughts and ideas. What you expect to see in Incredibles 3? Which of the characters will return? Do you think Dash's voice will be recast? Do you think, the story will go, what's your idea for, how the story can go and everything, the villain, everything about Incredibles 3 in general? Just put in the comment section down below. Stay tuned for more. And as always, Laurel Shadows, signing off. Or, as I like to say it, later, fuckers.